My wife, wanting to be with her younger boyfriend, told our daughter to lie and say that I had hit him with my car. In the end, she broke my leg for that man, and even sent me to prison. I endured all kinds of suffering in there. The day I was released, my heart was filled with resentment and helplessness. The sky was overcast and gray, as if it were about to rain. I limped out of the prison gate, leading a child by the hand. A police officer escorted me to the gate and handed me a simple bag of belongings. "Take care of your son. Look forward, don't look back." I nodded gently, vowing to thank him for taking care of my son. Ko Hao also bowed. The officer gently patted the child's head before turning to close the prison gate. A cold wind blew past. We were both wearing only thin clothes, and we shivered from the chill. Ko Hao clung tightly to me, his innocent face looking up. "Dad, where are we going now?" I instinctively wanted to say, "Home," but as the words reached my lips, I remembered I had no home anymore. The dark memories came flooding back. In prison, inmates would throw stones into my meals, steal the supplies I was given, and take over my bed. At night, they would gang up on me, beating me until not a single spot on my body was left unscathed. Verbal abuse happened so often it became routine. In my first month, I was tortured to the brink of losing the will to live, until a newly arrived inmate, who had also been betrayed by his wife, reached out to help me. Thanks to him, I escaped the bullying. Sadly, that peace didn't last long. 3 months later, that cellmate suddenly fell ill and passed away. Before he died, he told me he had no family left, and entrusted me with his 4-month-old son, hoping I would raise him. I had intended to end my life, but because of his last request, I fought to survive, enduring over 1,500 days and nights of pain. Now that all the hardship is behind me, I only wish to raise Ko Hao well. I no longer wish for anything else. As for the Liu family, let everything about them disappear like dust in the wind. I took a deep breath. When I opened my eyes again, hope for the future burned bright in them. Dozens of helicopters flew across the sky, scattering countless sheets of paper. Ko Hao widened his eyes in wonder, picked one up, and handed it to me. "Dad, what is this?" I glanced at it, and immediately froze. Bright red letters blazed across the page. "Ko Nan is a murderer." Cold sweat poured down my back. My legs went weak. I could barely stand. I looked up. Helicopters continued raining papers across the city. My face turned pale, my whole body trembling. Not long after, over 10 luxury cars raced to the prison gate, lining up in a long row. Several bodyguards stepped out and gathered before a Rolls-Royce in front. The door opened, and a graceful, elegant woman in a custom-made dress stepped out. First behind her was a cute little girl, about 7 or 8 years old. With just one glance at their identical faces, my blood began to boil. My whole body broke out in goosebumps. It was Liu Nuyen, my wife, and Ko Tu Han, my daughter. 5 years had passed, but I could never forget the last time I saw them. When Chu then became a vegetable, Liu Nuyen had me captured. In front of our daughter, she grabbed a stick and struck my leg again and again, screaming and demanding to know why I had hurt Chu Then. I curled into a corner, wanting to speak the truth, but it was no use. I could only watch as my leg was shattered. My hoarse screams echoed through the mansion, but no one came to help. Not until the stick broke in two, and my bone with it, did she finally stop. As for my daughter, Ko Tu Han, she watched coldly from start to finish. Then she handed her mother a handkerchief, looked at me with no emotion, and said, "I truly hate that I share the same blood as such a pathetic and disgusting man like you. Why wasn't Uncle Chu my biological father?" Then the mother and daughter accused me of attempted murder. On the day I went to prison, The hatred and fury in their eyes were something I could never forget. And yet today, seeing them again, the expression on Lu Nguyen and Ko Tu Han's faces was no different from back then. With just one glance, I couldn't control myself, instinctively stepping back, my teeth chattering. Standing beside me, Ko Hao sensed my fear and bravely stepped forward, shielding me with all his might from the two people radiating murderous intent. You can't bully my dad. Looking at the child who barely reached my knees, Ko Tu Han sneered. He's your father? Then what am I? Quote, I didn't know why they came. But after 5 years of enduring humiliation and pain, all I wanted was to live peacefully with Ko Hao. Without any further ties to the Lu family, I sat down, holding my innocent child in my arms, lowered my head, and spoke with cold indifference. I'm just a recently released convict. I don't dare to dream of being connected to President Lu and the young lady. Lu Nguyen never expected that after all those years in prison, I still hadn't learned how to speak properly. Apparently, 5 years of revenge hadn't been enough to make up for what I had done to Chu Than. Every time she saw my face, she couldn't suppress her rage. Whenever she thought of her beloved still lying unconscious, her blood boiled, her voice dripped with contempt. You're not worthy. We're not here to reunite. You turned Chu Than into a vegetable and now you want to wash your hands of it? Quote, not satisfied after speaking, she motioned to the bodyguards to take Ko Hao away. Don't think 5 years in prison will redeem your sins. The bodyguards didn't hold back. They pushed me to the ground as I tried to protect my son. They dragged Ko Hao, who screamed as he was forced into the car. No one knew better than I did how cruel and ruthless they were. Seeing Ko Hao fall into their hands, my insides twisted with despair. To protect my son, I dared not resist. I dragged my crippled legs and knelt before them, kowtowing repeatedly. Yes, I harmed the one you loved the most. I orchestrated that car accident. If you want revenge, take it out on me. I only beg you, please don't hurt Ko Hao. Quote, Lu Nguyen's face lit with satisfaction. Admitting guilt is good, as long as you repent properly. He'll be fine. Quote, soon after, dozens of bodyguards brought glowing red charcoal and laid it in a line 100 meters long from the prison gate. The orange-red flames cast some color onto my pale face. From above, Lu Nguyen and Ko Tu Han looked down at me with contempt. Crawl across this path of burning coals. And crawl all the way to the hospital to publicly confess and apologize to Chu Than. Quote, I didn't ask for forgiveness or argue. My face was blank and numb. Without hesitation, I knelt onto the burning coals. SSST, my pants burned through with a hole. I'm a murderer. I harmed Chu Than. I deserve to die. My scarred knees touched the burning coals, instantly blackening. My flesh seared. Blood dripped onto the coals, producing wisps of white smoke. I'm a murderer. I harmed Chu Than. I deserve to die. Quote, for over 100 meters, I crawled on my knees for an entire day. The mother and daughter followed in a car, coldly watching every move, no trace of sympathy on their faces. With sheer will, I forced myself to reach the hospital. My legs were burned black. My voice was hoarse, barely audible. Just before passing out, I could only think of Ko Hao. With my last strength, I clung to Lu Nguyen's leg. I've already apologized. Can you, please spare Ko Hao? Quote, she pulled her leg back and sneered. That's it? Not even close. I passed out. A bucket of cold water was poured on me, waking me up. The burning pain from my legs made me instinctively reach for something to hold onto, only to grab a cold tombstone. I forced my eyes open, but the sight before me left me numb. All around were tall tombs, and the one I clung to bore my father's name. In that moment, I thought I was still dreaming. I panicked and rolled to one side, trying to escape reality, hoping it was all just a hallucination. But when my eyes fell on the gravestone next to me and saw my mother's name clearly carved into it, a cold chill ran down my spine. I rubbed my eyes over and over, bit my hand hard, but the scene didn't change. The two tombstones still stood firmly in front of me. My eyes turned red from rubbing too hard, and my hand bled non-stop. I shook my head, repeatedly telling myself it couldn't be true. I refused to believe it. I stubbornly refused to accept the truth, until a familiar voice came from behind, cutting off all my self-torture. Your parents are dead, you unfilial bastard. After 5 years, you finally come to visit their graves. And not even a single apology? I turned around and saw Lu Nguyen and Ko Tu Han walking toward me, both with mocking expressions. I couldn't accept the truth, grabbing my hair with both hands. My voice trembled in panic. No, you're lying to me, aren't you? Didn't you promise me that as long as I completely cut ties with them, you wouldn't bother them again? Ko Tu Han looked at me painfully, but didn't offer a single word of comfort. Instead, she defended her mother. You've wronged my mom. She didn't do anything. Lu Nguyen's eyes were icy cold. I'm not as cruel as you think. I just pitied them missing their son. So I sent them all your photos from prison. They were too weak to handle the shock. By the 3rd month you were in jail. They had opened the gas valve and committed suicide. No one knew better than me how horrific life in prison had been. My parents were old and chronically ill. After receiving those photos, how could they go on living? Her gentle voice was the last drop that overflowed the cup, completely snapping my sanity. I couldn't even feel pain anymore. I slammed both hands onto the marble floor and screamed like a madman. They did nothing. They were innocent. If you hate me, then come after me. Why did you have to hurt them? Facing my tearful accusations, Lu Nguyen only laughed coldly. They were innocent? Wasn't Chu then innocent too? Did you ever forgive him? Chu then again. Everything always came back to Chu then. I collapsed completely. Like a sword had pierced straight through my heart. The pain was unbearable. I fell to the ground, drained of all strength, tears pouring endlessly like a broken dam. My voice was filled with despair. Then what do you want from me? What do I have to do for you to let me go? Lu Nguyen didn't answer. She simply clapped her hands. A heavy iron armor was strapped onto my body. Then they dragged me into a car and drove straight to the Lu family home. The car drove into the backyard. When the door opened, they threw me to the ground like a sack. The backyard was as big as a football field. In the middle sat a car. Just one glance at the license plate, and I recognized it. 5 years ago, this was the car that had hit Chu then right in front of me. The driver had jumped into the river to escape. Seeing it again now sent a chill down my spine. A sense of dread overwhelmed me. As Lu Nguyen and Ko Tu Han slowly approached the car, panic and pressure crushed me, suffocating. I struggled in vain, trying to escape, but the heavy armor made it impossible to move. I could only watch helplessly as the guards lifted me and placed me on a metal rack. 10 meters ahead was that car. A life for a life. Uncle Chu suffered being hit by a car. So you must taste that pain too. My mother said she would personally hit you 100 times. If you survive, we'll let you go. The mother and daughter looked at me writhing on the metal rack with gleeful eyes. This armor had been custom made overseas by Lu Nguyen. It could withstand car impacts, but not completely. With my frail, broken body, no one knew how many times I could endure. They got into the car. Without hesitation, Lu Nguyen slammed the gas pedal. A deafening crash followed. I was thrown 10 meters with the armor, crashing to the ground and immediately vomiting blood. But they showed no mercy. Reversed and charged again. The cold-faced guards dragged me up, set me back on the rack, and prepared for the next hit. The 38th time. The 72nd time. I felt my whole body shattered. Bones crushed. The grass-covered ground had been pounded into human-shaped dents. The green blades now dyed red. The butler standing beside me counted to the 99th time. And the car slowly approached. The silver armor on my body had changed color. Red dripping down drop by drop. The plastic mask covering my face was also stained and mottled. Ko Tu-han rolled down the car window. Her gaze icy cold. If you abandon that bastard child, I might be able to beg mother to spare you once. Quote, my throat was full of blood. But my voice remained firm. No, I absolutely will not abandon him. Quote, hearing that, Ko Tu-han's face turned pale with rage. Her eyes burning with fury. You protect that bastard too well. What about me? When will you ever treat me like that? Quote, hearing that question, I smiled quietly, through the armor soaked in red. If I had never loved my own daughter, how could I have stayed home to care for her all these years? The first time she drank formula, I made it. Her first diaper change, her first spoonful of solid food, all done by me. The first time I met Lu Nguyen, I was just 18. It was the first time I had ever seen a woman that beautiful. I fell for her at first sight. Knowing our identities and backgrounds were worlds apart, I never dared to dream. Just to catch more glimpses of her, I applied to work part-time at the Lu family's hotel. Until one late night, I accidentally saw Lu Nguyen drugged, and ended up having relations with her. After that, she warned me, and I knew clearly I wasn't worthy of marrying into the Lu family. So I didn't dare to speak of taking responsibility. But when I heard she was pregnant, I panicked and rushed to find her, only for her grandmother to overhear the truth. At that time, the old lady was seriously ill and didn't have long to live. To please her, the Lu family forced us to get married. Because I loved Lu Nguyen. Because I loved the child in her womb, I willingly became the Lu family's son-in-law. After marriage, she gave birth to Ko Tu-han. I treasured my daughter like a pearl. Afraid even a scratch would hurt her. Afraid of doing wrong, I tried hard to learn to be a husband, a father, a good man. But Lu Nguyen still hated me. For no reason at all. Simply because in her heart, there was Chu Than, the man she saw as the perfect moonlit figure. Even after marriage and having a child, she couldn't forget him. She even brought Chu Than along to events. And Ko Tu-han, always clinging to her mother since young, grew to love that man too. Uncle Chu Than was gentle. And me? I was the one constantly forbidding her from eating candy, watching videos, doing this or that. Compared to Chu Than, they grew more and more resentful of me. They always found faults, made things difficult. I endured it all, time and time again. But when I could take no more, I chose to divorce. Yet an unexpected accident destroyed everything. Chu Than was hit by a car right in front of me and became comatose. Lu Nguyen believed I was behind it, though no evidence was found. It truly was just an accident. She was determined to send me to jail, to take revenge for the man she loved. And it was my own daughter, Ko Tu-han, who followed her mother's words and gave false testimony in court, accusing me as the culprit. Under the cover of money and power, a hasty verdict was made. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, I was convicted, thrown into prison. Even then, Lu Nguyen didn't stop. She left one last order: take good care of him. And so, a few ruthless inmates were secretly ordered to torture me mercilessly. I was innocent, but I had to endure all the humiliation and injustice. I was blameless, yet suffered beatings and torment in the darkness. Between me and the Lu family, there was no longer any love left. My parents have passed away. The only one I want to protect now is Ko Hao. So when I heard Ko Tu-han questioning me, my heart didn't waver. On the contrary, I deliberately provoked her. How could a man fresh out of prison be worthy of being the father of a Liu family heiress? My mocking words made Ko Tu-han completely lose control. Her face darkened, her fists clenched, and her voice trembled with rage. Drive, mother. Quote, the car reversed dozens of meters, then sped forward and rammed into the steel rack one final time. I didn't know if it was from the force of the impact or from all the previous blows, but my armor shattered in midair, and I was thrown off the grass, slamming hard onto the stone ground, coughing up several mouthfuls of blood. The thick stench of blood filled the air, forcing everyone around to cover their noses and step back. I lay writhing in a pool of red, my body trembling uncontrollably. Hoarse, gasping breaths escaped from my throat, then gradually faded away. My hands, which had been struggling on the stone floor, finally fell limp. One of the bodyguards noticed something unusual and rushed over to check my breath. At that moment, Lu Nuyen and Ko Tu-han arrived and coldly asked, "How is he?" Quote, the bodyguard stood up trembling, his voice full of fear. "Miss, I think he has stopped breathing." Quote, when I opened my eyes again, the sharp scent of hospital disinfectant hit my nose. For a moment, I didn't know whether I was alive or dead. The nurse beside me sighed in relief when she saw me awake and couldn't help but ask a few questions. "What happened to you? How did you get hurt so badly?" Quote, I shook my head without answering. The painful, blood-filled memories still burned in my mind, but the nurse continued speaking with sincere concern. "Luckily, your wife and daughter brought you to the hospital in time. You were unconscious, so you probably don't know how panicked they were that day. They rushed you here like mad. Had every available doctor examine you." Quote, hearing her go on and on, I remained silent, my face expressionless, because I couldn't imagine those two people truly being worried about me. If they were anxious, it wasn't because they cared about whether I lived or died, but because if I died, they would no longer have a way to avenge Chu Than. The room quickly fell silent. Under the effect of anesthesia, I felt no more pain. I was just about to close my eyes to rest when the door burst open. Ko Hao came running in, crying, but didn't dare touch me. He gripped the edge of the blanket tightly, his face soaked in tears. "Dad, does it hurt? It's all my fault. I didn't protect you, and they took you away." Seeing the child sobbing so hard made my heart ache. I hurried to comfort him. "The doctor already treated me. It doesn't hurt anymore. Ko Hao, don't worry. All of this is my debt from the past. It has nothing to do with you." Ko Hao shook his head, his young eyes filled with determination. "No, Dad, you don't owe anyone anything. You're the best dad in the world." Just those few words broke my composure, and silent tears fell from my eyes. Hearing that, all the pain I had suffered seemed to fade away. I stretched out my thin arms and held the boy tightly. Hospitals are full of gossip, and the regular ward I was in was no exception. During the 10 days I stayed there, every time the nurse came in to change the medicine, I would hear whispered conversations. "Who rented the whole top floor? They say he was in a coma for 5 years. Never heard from, but a little boy around 8 years old visits him every day. Must be someone important from the Liu family. The man in that room, is he the boy's father? Comatose for 5 years. Rented a whole private floor. Hired the best medical team. And had people watching over him 24/7. That family must be full of love." Ko Hao was only 4 years old, but he had suffered so much from a young age that he was very mature. Whenever he heard those things, he would cover my ears and say softly yet firmly, "Don't listen, Dad, you still have me." The gossip and criticism no longer meant anything to me. But every time I saw Ko Hao trying to protect me, my heart would warm. The thought of staying by his side, watching him grow, became stronger than ever. Half a month later, the money I saved in prison, combined with the little my parents had left me, ran out. It was no longer enough to cover hospital bills. I had no choice but to take Ko Hao and leave. Back then, my parents sold our house and car just to help me. Now, I had nothing left but enough to rent a shabby little room. After resting for a few days, when I could walk again, I grabbed a cane and went out to look for work. But with a criminal record, no company would hire me. In the end, only one club, out of pity for my situation with a child, let me work as a janitor cleaning toilets. And so, with the small salary I earned while enduring pain from my wounds, I barely managed to support Ko Hao day by day. Another half-month passed, and the wounds on my legs slowly healed. Once I could move around more easily, I took on a few waiter jobs to earn more money. That night, the manager unexpectedly handed me a few bottles of wine and told me to bring them to the room at the end of the 3rd floor. I braced myself against the wall and slowly stepped forward. When I opened the door, the first thing I saw were familiar faces. Lu Nguyen and Ko Tu Han were seated at the front. Instinctively, I lowered my head, trying to hide my face. But clearly, they had been waiting for me to enter. All eyes in the room turned toward me. Every gaze was filled with contempt. Almost everyone there knew how much Lu Nguyen despised me. To please her, they all started laughing and mocking. "Oh, isn't this Conan? Why does he look like a stray dog mourning a death? Did you come here to serve drinks or clean the toilets dressed like that? Get lost before your stench makes me gag." Each sneer turned the room into something like a comedy stage. But I acted like I didn't hear anything, silently walking in with the wine in my hands. As I approached the coffee table, someone stuck their foot out, and I tripped hard. The heavy thud echoed through the room as I fell to the ground. The wine bottles shattered, and glass shards pierced my hand, causing blood to pour out. Laughter erupted. The one who caused it stood there with his arms crossed, looking down at me with disdain. "I invited guests tonight, and you broke the wine. What are you going to do about that?" I bit my lip, trying to stay calm. "I'll pay for it. One bottle is $10,000. Can you even afford it?" He sneered. "Tell you what, I'm in a good mood today. I'll let it go, if you crawl between my legs like a dog. How about that?" The room burst into laughter again. It was deafening. I should have walked away. From the moment I stepped in, I knew it was a trap. But those who live under a roof must lower their heads. I truly couldn't afford to pay $50 million. After everything I'd been through, I had already discarded my pride long ago. So, without thinking too much, I got down on my knees and crawled as he demanded. The room exploded with laughter. Someone even recorded it and posted the video to several groups. Still, I pretended I didn't hear anything, picked up the tray, and got ready to leave. But they wouldn't let me. One of them stepped on the tray, forcing me to clean the spilled wine. I tried to stand up and fetch a mop, but a young master from the Tu family chuckled. "This is fine wine. Using a mop would just ruin it. Use your mouth. Lick up every last drop." I looked at the puddle of wine on the floor. After just a few seconds of hesitation, I bent down. All eyes were on me, waiting to see just how far I would sink into humiliation. Just as my face was about to touch the floor, Lu Nguyen, who had silently watched this entire scene unfold, finally stood up and said coldly, "That's enough." Seeing that she was displeased, the others slowly dispersed to make way for her and her daughter to leave. As they passed by me, still kneeling on the ground, Lu Nguyen said coldly, "You make me sick." Ko Tu Han stopped for a second, her gaze haughty and filled with disdain. "If you abandon that bastard child, I'll ask Mom to let you move back into the house. I couldn't understand why she still cared so much about Ko Hao. After all, she once said with her own mouth that the person she wanted to call Dad was Chu Than. I couldn't understand it, and I didn't want to have anything to do with the Liu family anymore. So I rejected her without hesitation. No father would ever abandon his own child. Ko Tu-han's face went stiff with rage. Then she turned and left without another word. Still kneeling on the ground, I felt the wound on my leg tear open again. Eventually, I limped my way home. As soon as I stepped inside, I saw Ko Hao had already made 2 bowls of noodles, waiting to eat with me. The moment he saw the dried blood on my hand, he burst into tears, helped me sit down, and ran to get the first aid kit. His small hands gently cleaned the wound, disinfected it, and applied a bandage. Each time he wiped, he blew softly on it, watching my expression carefully, afraid I was in pain. Seeing his little hands reddened by the hot water, my own eyes turned red. Only after finishing the bandage did his tears start falling. Daddy, did those bad people from the Liu family bully you again? I'll grow up fast and earn lots of money. I won't let anyone hurt you again. I won't let you suffer anymore. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I hugged his frail little body tightly, shaking my head to keep the tears from falling. My voice was gentle. Daddy's fine, and you don't have to work hard to make money. I just want you to be happy, healthy, and by my side every day. That's more than enough. After that stormy night, life finally returned to peace. No one came to bother us anymore. Just when I thought I had finally found peace, Lu Nuyen's bodyguards suddenly showed up without a word and dragged me to the hospital. In a VIP room on the top floor, the atmosphere was tense. The moment she saw me, Lu Nuyen gave a cold laugh and, without saying a word, grabbed Ko Hao, who was kneeling beside her, and threw him toward me. Her voice was like ice. Keep a close eye on the bastard you're raising. Don't let him go out and hurt others. Seeing Ko Hao tossed to the ground, I was both heartbroken and furious. I quickly scooped him into my arms, shielding him protectively, and looked toward Lu Nuyen in confusion. Not understanding what had happened, she said nothing, her expression cold and unreadable. Instead, Ko Tu-han gave me a defiant glare. That bastard snuck into the room when the doctor wasn't watching and tried to harm Uncle Chu. I caught him red-handed. He even tried to pull out some of his hair for revenge. I froze, but I knew deep down, Ko Hao was a good boy. He would never do something like that. Gently, I coaxed him. Tell Daddy the truth. What really happened? I didn't mean to. He sobbed. I saw you were hurt and just wanted to ask Uncle Chu not to bully you anymore. I had just walked to the side of his bed when the alarm went off. She rushed in and grabbed me. I just touched his head and called out to him. Listening to Ko Hao's tearful explanation, everything became clear. With how much those two cared about Chu Than, I knew they wouldn't let this go. So I raised my head and looked straight at Lu Nuyen. What do you want to do? Her eyes were like ice. Same as you. Go to prison and learn how to be human again. Her words chilled me to the core. I immediately dropped to my knees, repeatedly begging, please, punish me some other way. It's just a few strands of hair. A few strands? She sneered. Chu Than's hair is worth more than that bastard's life. My pleading only angered them more. I truly had no other choice. So I took full responsibility. He's just a child. If he made a mistake, I'm his father. I'll take the blame. Hearing the decisiveness in my voice, Lu Nuyen didn't get angrier. Instead, she laughed. Her eyes filled only with mockery. You? Take responsibility? Can you even afford to? Ko Tu-han also looked at me with complicated eyes, her voice tinged with bitterness. You really care that much about that illegitimate child? Over the past 5 years, everything, one thing after another, began to flash through my mind. When I remembered the moment Ko Hao's biological father tightly held my hand before he died, pleading with me to take care of the child, a surge of courage suddenly rose in me, the kind that defied everything. I knew all too well how the Liu family treated others. So I stood up at once and coldly snatched a lighter from the bodyguard's hand. Amid the shocked gazes of the mother and daughter, I opened my mouth and spoke with unwavering resolve. Fine. The Liu family is known for taking an eye for an eye. 10 for 1. And 100 for 10. Right? If he loses a single strand of hair, I'll repay it with 100. 1,000. 10,000 strands. Then, before anyone could react, under their stunned stares, I desperately lit the ends of my already dry, scorched hair. The flames burst out fiercely. In just a flash, the burning pain reached my face, ears, even my scalp. Soon, all my hair was gone, and my scalp was covered in scorched red burns. On the way back, Ko Hao's tears wouldn't stop falling. His little eyes were swollen red from crying, his throat hoarse, his voice lisping. Dad, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I caused you to end up like this. Does it hurt? Seeing his face full of guilt, I tried to suppress the pain and forced a smile to comfort him. It doesn't hurt. Hair grows back quickly. In the next few days, I'll just wear a hat or buy a wig. That's all. Don't cry anymore, okay? Not wanting me to feel sad, Ko Hao struggled to hold back his tears, placing his tiny hand on my scorched blackened scalp, blowing gently on it. After this incident, I knew clearly, if we stayed in kin back any longer, more disasters would come. So I began working day and night, taking on 4 or 5 part-time jobs at once, just hoping to save enough money to leave this place and take Ko Hao far away. After a month of hard work, on payday, I held in my hands the money I had worked so hard for and immediately bought 2 train tickets to Jiangtan. Seeing the departure date was 2 days away, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Heart full of hope, I returned home, busy the past few days. I had asked the convenience store owner downstairs to help watch Ko Hao. As soon as I arrived, she anxiously grabbed my arm, face full of worry. Ko Nan, where have you been these days? A strange girl came looking for you. Said she knew you. As soon as Ko Hao heard that, he followed her. He hasn't come back since. Hearing those words, it felt as if the sky collapsed right in front of me. My mind went completely blank. I rushed out and grabbed a taxi, giving the driver the Liu family's address. By the time I reached the villa, the rain was pouring down like a waterfall. I stood there in the rain knocking on the door for 4 straight hours. No one answered. Not until nightfall did a maid finally come out, her face full of irritation. What are you doing? You've been knocking forever. Aren't you tired? Soaked to the bone, my whole body trembled from the cold. I couldn't even speak, could only use my hands to describe. A little boy, about this tall, 4 or 5 years old. I came to find him. Hearing that, the maid's expression grew even more annoyed. Find what? That boy is dead. Dead. Those words hit me like a bolt of lightning on a clear day. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. My face turned deathly pale as I grabbed her arm, demanding a proper explanation. Unable to shake me off, she finally gave in and told me everything. A few days ago, the boy had suddenly come looking for the young miss. He knelt outside the villa gate, begging them to forgive his dad. It had been raining non-stop. No one came out to see him. He just kept kneeling there in the rain, soaked to the skin, burning with fever, yet refusing to leave. Eventually, he collapsed onto the ground. Still, no one paid him any mind. By the time someone finally noticed this morning, he had already stopped breathing. That one sentence was like thunder exploding in my ears. In that moment, my whole world collapsed. A chaos I had never known surged through me. It spread from my chest to every limb. My ears went deaf. I couldn't hear anything around me anymore. Only the disordered pounding of my own heart. No, I didn't believe it. I couldn't possibly believe it. Ko how? Just a few days ago, he was still sweetly calling me dad. How? How could he be gone now? I immediately pushed the maid away and rushed straight into the villa. My steps were staggering, as if I had no strength left. When I finally reached the backyard and saw the small, cold body lying motionless on the wet grass, my entire body froze. It felt like someone had shot 1,000 arrows through my heart. And my mind went completely blank. My eyes were locked onto a single point. The child lying still. I was trapped in a world of darkness with no way out. Paralyzed by despair. Even my heart clenched in pain. To the point I could no longer control my body. My whole body trembled violently. Then collapsed. Ko how? Ko how? I went mad. Crawling toward my child. Pulling him into my arms as tears poured down like a broken dam. I screamed to the heavens. Why? Why are you doing this to me? Suddenly, a ding from my phone rang out. With trembling hands, I opened the message. The words on the screen made the blood rush straight to my head. That bastard son you raised is dead in my house. Come pick up his corpse. Quote, as the rain stopped and night fell, darkness blanketed the sky. My tears had run dry, leaving only a deep crimson in my eyes. My body was ice cold, but a blazing fury erupted in my chest like never before. A maid walked by with a broom, her face full of disgust. He's already dead. Why are you still crying? Just take the body away. Leaving it here is bad luck. Quote, that one sentence shattered every ounce of reason I had left. I sprang up, grabbed her by the neck, my voice hoarse and sharp as a blade. He was just a child. Not even 5 years old. A living, breathing human being. Why didn't any of you take him to the hospital when he collapsed? He never even got a chance to start his life. Why would you treat him like this? Quote, the maid, terrified by my outburst, stammered, It was the young lady who said to ignore him. She even said, those bastard kids. If they die, so be it. Quote, a guttural scream tore from my chest. One of unspeakable pain. I could no longer hold back. I lost control of the strength in my hands, leaving marks around the maid's neck. When I opened my eyes again, all that remained inside me was hatred. Pure despair from someone with nothing left to lose. The cold emptiness of having no one left to hold me back overwhelmed me, making the maid collapse to the floor in fear. They're probably at the hospital now, with that man named Chu. Without hesitation, I rushed there like a man gone mad. Before leaving the Liu family home, I grabbed a sharp fruit knife and hid it in my hand. I kicked open the hospital room door. Mother and daughter were sitting beside the bed. Hearing the noise, they both turned to look. Seeing me soaked with rain, my clothes covered in mud, both of them frowned. Lu Nuyen hadn't even had time to ask what I was doing when I strode forward and grabbed Ko Tu Han by the collar. In the next second, the fruit knife was pressed to her throat. My actions left the bodyguards and Lu Nuyen frozen. No one dared to move. I no longer cared. I dragged the girl up to the rooftop, ignoring their terrified gazes. The night wind howled coldly, making everyone shiver. Seeing her daughter standing at the edge between life and death, Lu Nuyen turned pale in disbelief. Have you lost your mind? That's your biological daughter. Quote, I could no longer hear a thing. My mind was filled with the image of that small, lifeless body lying alone on the grass. I've gone mad. I really have. You all killed Ko Hao. I just want a life for a life. Quote, my screams rang in Ko Tu Han's ears. And she shouted back in anger and defiance. He was just a bastard. So what if he died? Are you really going to kill your own daughter for him? Don't forget, I'm your real daughter. Quote, I laughed. But the more I laughed, the more tears fell. My voice was heavy and quiet. Daughter? The one who sent her own father to prison? Ko Tu-han. You blame me for not treating you like my daughter. But have you ever treated me like your father? You were born weak and cried all the time. I stayed up all night watching over you until I fainted from low blood sugar. Every meal, every outfit, the first letter you learned to read, the first person you recognized. It was all me. Whatever you wanted, even if I didn't have it, I still tried my best to get it for you. I believed I had fulfilled my duties as a father. But you, as a child, have you ever once felt any gratitude toward me? That day, the day of the accident, you were clearly at the scene. Yet just to make Chu than your father, you stood in court and spun blatant lies, sending me to prison in injustice. Even after I was jailed, you and your mother didn't stop. You hired people in prison to torture me, and indirectly caused my parents to die from grief. All these years, what exactly did I do wrong to you two? Why do you hate me so much? Will you only be satisfied once I'm completely destroyed? The day I was released, I said it clearly. I didn't want anything to do with the Liu family ever again. But you still wouldn't let go. You made me walk barefoot on burning coals to atone for Chu Than's sins. You made me get hit by a car 100 times. You even forced me to burn off all my hair. Fine. I'll take it as I owed you all a debt in my past life. And I've repaid it all in this one. But even a 4 or 5-year-old child, you couldn't spare him. Chu Than's life matters. But ours doesn't? Every word I spoke was heavy with despair, echoing in the wind, refusing to fade. Everyone present on the rooftop stood stunned, speechless. After suppressing it for so long, all my resentment finally exploded. I nearly lost my mind. I looked up at the vast night sky, eyes bloodshot, nearly splitting open. I screamed until my voice went hoarse. In the end, only broken laughter mixed with sobs remained. Lu Nuyen. I regret it. I regret ever loving you. Ko Tu-han. I regret it too. I regret wanting you to have a complete family. That's why I agreed to marry your mother. I regret being your father. This world is too cruel. In the next life, I won't come back. Ko Hao. Don't be afraid. Daddy's coming to be with you. Quote. As I finished, I let go of Ko Tu-han's collar. In the panic-stricken eyes of mother and daughter, I jumped, like a kite whose string had snapped. I hurled myself off the high-rise, tumbling through the air. A heavy thud echoed. At that exact moment, the rooftop door burst open. An assistant rushed in, panting with joy. Director Liu. Miss Liu. Mr. Chu has woken up. Quote. The loud noise had shaken everyone on the rooftop. Ko Tu-han whipped her head around in panic. Behind her, it was empty. He was gone. A second later, a scream pierced the air, splitting eardrums. High-pitched and desperate. Daddy, an 8-year-old child, after forcing his own biological father into a corner, finally understood what heartbreak truly was. It was as if his soul had been drained. He stepped back, a few steps, not realizing there was nothing behind him but cold, open air. The cold wind slapped his face, howled in his ears. He instinctively looked up. There were many people on the rooftop. Below, the body of his father lay cradled in a security guard's arms. Everyone turned their eyes toward him, eyes wide in horror. A crack sounded from his spine, bones hitting concrete, blood spreading with a warm rush. All that remained were faint, white flashes, and the static in his ears. So this is what it's like before you freeze to death. You truly don't feel pain anymore. Before completely losing consciousness, Ko Tu-han had only one final thought. Good. Daddy doesn't hurt anymore, and I get to return to Daddy's arms. When the old master of the Liu family received the news, he rushed to the hospital to sign surgery papers. The nurse had just finished sedating Liu Nuyen, the one pulling all the strings behind the Liu family. In a single night, his family collapsed. His son-in-law jumped off a building and died instantly. The news shot to the top of trending topics. His granddaughter was taken to emergency. Life and death unknown. His daughter, after witnessing everything with her own eyes, went completely insane on the spot. Shock after shock rained down on the nearly 60-year-old man. In just one night, his jet black hair turned gray. He looked like he had aged a decade. Outside the hospital, reporters had caught wind of the story and swarmed the entrance. Many even disguised themselves to sneak in, relentlessly harassing the old master, trying to uncover the reason behind the tragedy. Despite bodyguards chasing them out again and again, the chaos wouldn't stop. For safety reasons, the hospital arranged to move the old man to the VIP ward on the top floor. As soon as he entered, he saw that pale, ominous face sitting beside the hospital bed. The rage he'd been holding in could no longer be restrained. He raised his cane and shouted for the guards to drag that cursed man out immediately. But Chu then still held tightly to the unconscious Liu Nuyen, refusing to let go, begging desperately, "Uncle Liu, Nuyen is very weak right now. Please let me stay by her side." He looked at the girl, even in her sleep, trembling in fear. Mr. Liu felt a heavy weight pressing on his chest, so much so that he couldn't breathe. The bodyguard hurried forward to support him. After calming down, he didn't even bother to look again, turning and walking straight into the adjacent room. In the middle of the night, news came from the operating room. Ko Tu-han's life was saved, but the bones from her knees down had been completely shattered, and doctors had no choice but to perform a high-level amputation. Hearing the news, Mr. Liu nearly fainted. Liu Nuyen had been stubborn and headstrong since childhood, refusing to listen. Even though he had tried to discipline her many times, she never changed. After learning that her husband had been thrown into prison by her, he gave up the idea of handing over incorporation to her and placed all his hopes on Ko Tu-han. Although my background was ordinary, my character was upright and my temper gentle. Back then, Mr. Liu only took me in to save face. But I raised his granddaughter well, allowing him to gradually see a glimmer of hope for the Liu family's future. Yet that fragile hope, and the peace of the Liu family, were completely destroyed by Liu Nuyen. Ko Tu-han never imagined she would survive. Triggered by disjointed memories, she instinctively called out, "Dad!" But the room was completely silent. No one answered. Panicked, she opened her eyes, scanned the room for a familiar figure, but found none. Her pupils slowly dilated, and her face turned pale. She struggled to sit up, flailing her small arms. The nurse, afraid she would tear her stitches, hurriedly tried to restrain her, but Ko Tu-han grew more agitated, kicking, scratching, even biting. The nurse couldn't handle her and had to call the bodyguard to get her family. Hearing the news, Mr. Liu rushed over. As soon as she saw him, Ko Tu-han finally stopped. Her lips trembled before she burst into tears. "Grandpa, where's Dad? I want to see Dad." Mr. Liu froze slightly, a trace of sorrow flickering in his eyes. He bent down and took her hand. "Your dad is sleeping. Be good, Tu-han. Rest and get well." Ko Tu-han didn't doubt him. He had never lied to her. And since she had survived, deep down, she believed I might have too. After coaxing her to sleep, Mr. Liu sat at her bedside, watching over her without leaving for even a moment. Half an hour later, his secretary knocked on the door, face grim, saying there was urgent news to report. Mr. Liu was about to step outside, But Ko Tu-han refused to let go of his hand. Left with no choice, he signaled the secretary to be cautious with her words. Originally, this matter had been suppressed a few days ago, but in recent days, several families in Beijing had gotten involved, and the story flared up again. Everyone was saying the one truly responsible was Ms. Liu. The discovery of a child's body in the villa had brought in the police. The deaths of Conan's elderly parents and the old car accident had also been dragged back into the spotlight. Public opinion was disastrous. Even within the company, unrest was beginning to brew. At this point, the secretary faltered and stopped speaking. Though Ko Tu-han only vaguely understood, she could clearly see her grandfather's face turning paler and paler, and unease began to rise in her heart. "How is she now?" she asked. Mr. Liu knew who she meant. So did the secretary. She glanced at the young lady, then carefully replied, "Still the same as a few days ago. No change." "Still the same? Isn't that madness? She caused such an earth-shattering mess and now pretends to be insane to shake off all responsibility?" Mr. Liu recalled the last time he saw Lu Nuyen. She had forgotten everything, only remembering one person, Chu Than. The doctor said that when she passed out, she called out his name. Due to severe psychological trauma, she now remembered only that one man. This type of illness is extremely difficult to treat. Even though the Liu family had invited top specialists to examine her over the past few days, there had been no improvement. At this point, she wasn't just facing charges for murder and causing her husband's death. She was dragging the entire Liu family into the abyss. To the elder of the Liu family, threatening the family's interests was an unforgivable crime. The secretary was still waiting for him to make a final decision. But with his granddaughter present, he couldn't speak up right away. The air in the room grew as tense as a stretched string. At that moment, Chu Than, face covered in tears and snot, burst in. "Uncle Liu, I beg you, please save Nuyen. She's innocent." Quote, the moment they saw his face, the expressions of the two people in the room immediately changed. Elder Liu slammed the table and stood up, his face red with rage. "Innocent? She's the most deserving of death. And if it weren't for someone like you, that bad omen, how could Nuyen have been foolish enough to cause all this trouble? How did the Liu family end up in such a miserable state?" Quote, his presence was so overwhelming that Chu Than didn't dare breathe heavily. He could only turn his head to look at Ko Tu-han, as if seeking help. But when he met the child's cold, indifferent gaze, a shiver ran down his spine, and unease filled his heart. This child used to cling to him, calling him Dad. Quote, why was she so distant now? Outside, public pressure was growing, and the police could storm in to arrest Lu Nuyen at any moment. If she was taken away, the protective umbrella Chu Than had fought to maintain for years would collapse completely. He didn't want his decade-long efforts to go to waste, nor did he want to lose the position so close at hand. Thinking of this, Chu Than clenched his teeth and knelt before the elder. "Uncle Liu, you know exactly what state Nuyen is in right now. If the police take her, who knows what she'll reveal. I know you've completely lost faith in her, but she's still family. If something happens to her, it will bring countless consequences. Can the Liu family really stay intact?" Quote, the elder understood perfectly. It was just that over the past few years, he had poured all his attention into Ko Tu-han, and neglected to supervise his daughter. Now, he wasn't even sure what she had done. If he stepped in to protect her now, he'd be digging his own grave. If her crimes were exposed, the Liu family might never recover. Seeing that the elder wasn't shouting anymore, Chu Than knew he had hit the weak spot. He wiped away his tears and laid out his plan. The situation is too complicated right now. Nuyen's condition, Who knows when she'll recover? The best way is to let her get out of this storm. Quote, she only remembers me now. If you trust me, I'm willing to take her abroad. Hide our identities. Wait until the waves calm down. And then figure out what to do next. Quote, so that was his real plan. Elder Lu stared at him, still weighing the pros and cons. When suddenly, Ko Tu Han screamed. The girl grabbed the glass on the table and threw it straight at Chu Than. Her voice, hoarse like a blade scraping the ear, shouted, I don't agree. I won't let you take my mother away. She belongs to my dad. No one is allowed to take her. Quote, Chu Than was startled by her violent reaction. Instinctively, he blurted out, your dad? Ko Tu Han, your father is already dead. Quote, shut your mouth. Quote, Elder Lu roared, his voice cracking as he tried to stop him. But it was too late. Ko Tu Han's face instantly went pale. Her pupils slowly dilated, her gaze filled with disbelief. No, you're lying. You're evil, Grandpa. He's lying, right? Dad is still alive, isn't he? Dad, I want to see Dad. Quote, seeing his granddaughter in such distress, Elder Lu's heart ached. He held her tightly and signaled the guards to drag Chu Than out. The girl stared as he was removed from the room. Thinking he was about to take her mother away, she panicked even more, screaming and flailing, trying to chase after him. Elder Lu and two nurses struggled to hold her down. The monitor blared an alert, and the doctor rushed in to inject a sedative, but she struggled too violently. The freshly stitched wound burst open, and bright red blood soaked through the gauze. The old man looked at her empty pant legs, his eyes filled with sorrow. Unable to bear staying any longer, he silently left the room. After the wound was treated, the room fell silent again. 5 hours later, Ko Tu Han woke up. This time, only a sleepy nurse was on duty. Ko Tu Han saw the phone on the table and gently picked it up. Having received a very formal education from a young age, despite being only 8 years old, she could read the characters on the screen. Her fingers trembled as she opened the top hot search headline. Police confirm hospital jumper was a suicide. Quote, though the scene was blurred and the video masked the face, one glance was enough for her to recognize who it was. The man in the checkered shirt and jeans, lying on the stretcher, covered by a white cloth, was me. Dad, is Dad really dead? Quote, the news struck her like lightning, cutting straight through her heart. She couldn't accept it and began screaming madly. The nurse jolted awake and tried to restrain her, but she bit down hard on the nurse's hand. Her sharp teeth drew blood. In pain, the nurse let go, and the girl immediately ripped out her IV, pushed herself up from the bed, and tried to run outside. No matter how hard she tried, her body still didn't respond. As she pulled off the blanket, Ko Tu Han couldn't see her legs at all. Her sobs got stuck in her throat. She froze. Her trembling hands groped around the bed but found nothing. Where are my legs? Where did they go? The nurse next to her saw Tu Han trying to remove her pants and rushed forward to stop her, afraid she'd touch the freshly anesthetized wounds. But the girl didn't care. With one hand, she yanked down the blue and white striped pants. When she saw the two stumps wrapped in white gauze, her mind went completely blank. All she could see was overwhelming panic. Where are my thighs? My knees? My calves? Where did they go? Quote, an unbearable wave of despair surged through her. The corners of her eyes turned bright red, and she let out a scream before frantically tearing at the bandages. The nurse was so frightened she didn't dare intervene. She rushed outside to call for help. Fresh blood quickly soaked through the bed. When the gauze was fully ripped off, what appeared before her eyes were not legs, but two pale white bones, surrounded by rotting chunks of dark yellow and black flesh. The pungent smell of blood filled the room. These past few days, Ko Tu-han had only been on IV fluids. As soon as she caught the stench, she couldn't help but gag. Trying to lean out of bed, she lost her balance and crashed hard onto the floor, falling into unconsciousness again. Once again, she was rushed into the operating room. At the same time, news that the police had come to investigate reached Mr. Liu. Because this involved his own grandchildren, he hadn't eaten or slept in days. Upon hearing the report, his frail body couldn't take it anymore, and he fainted. When he came to, his secretary, too anxious to worry about his condition, immediately delivered the latest update. The young miss is still in surgery. The police came but couldn't find anyone, so they temporarily withdrew, but they'll definitely trace things back to the hospital soon. Quote, Chairman Liu, you must think of something fast. Mr. Liu's eyes were bloodshot. His blurred vision brimmed with tears. After a long, weary sigh, he rasped, Let Chu then take her away. I never want to see her again. Quote, the moment the order was given, the secretary didn't dare delay for even a second. He rushed to the neighboring ward to deliver the message. Chu then had already packed up, waiting for this moment. When he heard the news, he let out a sigh of relief. He took out a set of black clothes, gently coaxed Lu Nuyen into changing, put a hat and mask on her, and led her out of the hospital. Since losing her mind, Lu Nuyen's memory had frozen at age 13, back when she first met and fell for Chu Than. Now, she remembered no one else and refused to accept anyone else. She obediently held his hand. Under the escort of bodyguards, they slipped past the reporters downstairs and snuck to the airport. Sitting on the plane, watching the city fade into the distance, Chu then finally relaxed, a deep and inexplicable joy rising within him. From now on, no one could separate him and Lu Nuyen again, even without a formal title. With the only granddaughter of the Liu family now paralyzed from the waist down, he had only this woman left to deal with. If he could just coax Lu Nuyen into having a child, then the inheritance would be his for the taking. The thought made him laugh out loud. Completely immersed in his beautiful fantasy, he paid no attention to Lu Nuyen beside him. As the city shrank into a black dot in the distance, a flicker of panic flashed in her eyes. After being pulled back from the jaws of death once more, Ko Tu-han seemed like a completely different person, her entire being radiating a cold, gloomy aura. Other than Mr. Liu, she didn't speak to anyone. No matter how much others tried to talk to her, she didn't say a word. Yet the few times she did speak were like fatal blows to Mr. Liu's heart. Grandpa, where is Daddy's body? You said you'd take me to see him. Quote, where's Mommy? Why hasn't she come to visit me? I lost both my legs already. Quote, each word was like a dagger to Mr. Liu's chest. But Ko Tu-han's expression remained cold and emotionless. Her eyes filled with a chilling darkness. Like a lifeless machine. Family tragedy, bloodshed, funerals, all came out of her mouth as lightly as if she were speaking of the weather. The doctors said Ko Tu-han had suffered a severe psychological breakdown. From the series of traumatic events, her mind was unbalanced, her spirit in turmoil. The Liu family invited countless psychologists to treat the girl, but she always wore a cold expression and completely refused to cooperate. Not only indifferent, she even deliberately scribbled on the tests and sabotaged the therapy sessions. After 2 months of back and forth, Mr. Liu finally lost his patience and decided to halt all psychological treatments. Without medication to suppress her condition, Ko Tu-han became increasingly extreme. Not only did she suffer mental breakdowns, but she also exhibited violent behavior. The servants around her all bore some kind of injury. Some were scratched, some hit by thrown objects, some punished by her to the point of bleeding. In just a short time, No one in the Lu household dared to approach the dark-hearted, disabled young lady anymore. Then one day, the girl accidentally learned that Lu Nuyen hadn't stopped visiting because of illness, but because Chu then had taken her away, and she would never return. The last psychological boundary in the 8-year-old girl's mind collapsed completely. She couldn't accept the fact that her mother had abandoned her own child for an outsider like Chu. Then, the seeds of anger and madness exploded violently. Ko Tu-han, eyes red with fury, rampaged around the room in her wheelchair, smashing everything in sight. Tables and chairs were overturned. Glass shattered. Servants were injured. Nothing in the entire mansion remained intact. Even Mr. Lu, who rushed back upon hearing the news, was struck by her with a stick, falling and injuring his back before he could dodge. Looking at the granddaughter he once had high hopes for becoming like this, Mr. Lu fell into complete despair. He directly ordered the bodyguards to take the girl to the highest floor and lock her in a pitch-dark room. From that day on, apart from 3 bodyguards taking turns watching and caring for her 24/7, Ko Tu-han never saw anyone else again. The room contained only the most basic living necessities. Even the windows were sealed shut. Confined in that cramped space day after day, her mental state became increasingly distorted and gloomy. She began to resent everyone around her. She resented her grandfather, the one who imprisoned her. She resented her mother, who left without saying goodbye. She resented Chu Than, who stole her mother away. She resented the entire world. The only thing that could calm her down was the memory of me, her biological father. Countless long nights, she lay alone on the bed, softly humming the lullabies I used to sing, retelling the fairy tales I once read to her. Only then could she slowly fall asleep. During the day, staring at the sealed door with no light coming through, she would recall the times I once held her hand and took her everywhere. In her dreams, I was still the same, gently calling her name, cooking her favorite food, buying her the toys she once wanted. But upon waking up, there was nothing but emptiness around her, only the pillow soaked with tears. No one was there, no one at all. In the long days of captivity, caught between hatred and longing, Ko Tu-han became like a withered leaf outside the window, slowly shriveling and falling. She burned with fever, lying in a daze on the bed. Even breathing felt heavy. She called out in a hoarse voice, but the bodyguards outside, already tired of her, pretended not to hear, even deliberately speaking louder. I heard Ms. Nguyen is pregnant again. Is it true? Probably. Heard it's only 2 months in. No wonder Mr. Lu hasn't gotten angry lately. Looks like the Lu family will finally have another heir. Huh? Each word, each sentence, clearly reached Ko Tu-han's ears. But this time, she didn't go mad. She didn't scream. She merely curled her lips into a twisted smile, a strange raspy sound coming from her throat, her eyes widening to the extreme. If anyone walked in at that moment, they would surely be frightened by that grotesque smile. But no one would walk in. There was only Tu-han, alone in the thick darkness of hatred and resentment, quietly taking her last breath. The news of Ko Tu-han's death soon reached Chu Than across the ocean. To him, the biological daughter of Lu Nuyen had only ever been a tool, something he pretended to care about, but never truly did. In his eyes, the affection Lu Nuyen had for him was something that could never compare to what she once gave me. He only knew how to use children to climb higher. So from the start, he never saw me as a threat. As for that girl, she wasn't even worth his attention. As long as Lu Nuyen gave him a child, he had 100 ways to throw me and my daughter out into the streets. It's just unfortunate that one unexpected accident left him in a coma for 5 years, wasting everything. Fortunately, by the time he woke up, I was already dead. Ko Tu-han was crippled. And although Lu Nuyen had gone mad, her heart still belonged to him. With such an ending, Chu then felt like even the heavens were helping him. Otherwise, how could everything turn out so perfectly? Now that Ko Tu-han was dead, the Lu family had no heir left, and Lu Nuyen just happened to be pregnant. No matter how much Mr. Lu disliked him, this time he had no choice but to bow his head and accept Chu Than's return. Sitting beside him, Lu Nuyen watched him laugh non-stop while holding his phone, so she leaned over curiously. Chu Than, what are you laughing at? Quote. Chu then quickly locked the screen and casually made up an excuse. But before the screen went dark, Lu Nuyen had already glimpsed a familiar name. A name that had appeared many times recently. Ko Tu-han. Chu then took Lu Nuyen's hand and placed it on her barely visible baby bump, his voice carrying a playful tone. Nuyen, you're going to be a mother. Aren't you happy? Did you know? This is our child. Quote. Lu Nuyen blinked, a faint haze flashing in her eyes. A mother. Suddenly, fragments of messy memories flashed through her mind. She vaguely remembered she had once had a child. What was that child's name again? Lu Nuyen frowned. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't remember. Seeing this, Chu then panicked, afraid she might recall something. So he quickly shoved a grape into her mouth and dragged her to the beach to play, successfully cutting off her awakening memories. Days passed, and Lu Nuyen's belly gradually grew. The maternal instinct buried deep in her subconscious was stirred, and she was no longer as childlike and naive. She became quieter and more composed. Every night before bed, she would gently touch her belly and hum a lullaby to the baby inside. Always the same lullaby. Chu then had tried teaching her other songs, but she could never remember them. Over time, he got used to it and stopped bringing it up. When she was 5 months pregnant, Lu Nuyen started telling bedtime stories. But unlike before, each night was a different story, never repeated. Out of curiosity, Chu then looked up the origin of these stories during his free time, only to discover they were all old tales published many years ago. The publication dates happened to coincide with the birth year of Ko Tu-han. This unexpected discovery sent chills down his spine. On one hand, the gruesome memory of my death haunted him with fear, worried that my spirit would come back for revenge. On the other hand, he was terrified Lu Nuyen would eventually regain her memory and do something to ruin his current life. So, he invited numerous Taoist priests to perform exorcisms and even made a special trip back to the country to pray for blessings. Anything to get rid of the bad luck following him. At the same time, he constantly sought chances to probe Lu Nuyen, trying to find out whether she remembered anything from the past. Thankfully, although her words and behavior were sometimes odd, she didn't seem to have fully recovered mentally. That finally gave Chu then some peace of mind. A month before her due date, Chu then brought out a dictionary and carefully searched for names for the baby. At some point, Lu Nuyen had quietly come closer. He showed her the names he had picked and asked which one she liked. She looked at each piece of paper, shaking her head again and again. Then she stared at him and said, "None of them are good." Quote. Chu then assumed she was just being childish and didn't take it seriously. What do you know about good names or bad names? If you don't like them, pick one yourself then. Quote. Fine. I will, Lu Nuyen replied defiantly, grabbing a pen and scribbling something down. When she handed the paper to him excitedly, Chu then felt the blood in his veins freeze. On the clean white paper, though the handwriting was crooked like a child's, 2 distinct characters stood out. 2 characters so familiar they made his scalp tingle. Tu-han. The moment he saw that name, Chu then screamed and shot to his feet. His eyes filled with panic as he backed away. All he could think of was that she had been possessed by a ghost. Under that psychological pressure, just seeing her face reminded him of another. One that looked about 80% similar, but much younger. He recalled the photo sent by Lu Nguyen's assistant, the one capturing Ko Tu-han's corpse being carried away after death. His whole body went cold, every hair on his skin standing on end. Lu Nguyen had no idea why he reacted so violently, or why he was now looking at her with so much fear and disgust. In Nguyen's eyes, she had only given the child a name she liked very much. She hadn't done anything wrong. The anticipation in her heart was gradually overtaken by a deep sense of grievance. She hurried forward, trying to grab his sleeve, but he forcefully shoved her away. Chu Than, as if he had seen a ghost, rushed downstairs in panic. Lu Nguyen immediately chased after him and once again grabbed his hand on the staircase. At some point, her palm had turned cold and clammy with sweat, the moment that icy hand touched him. Chu Than's fear was pushed to its peak. His eyes widened in terror, and a scream burst from his throat. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break free from that hand. A hand that seemed to have reached out from hell, clutching him tightly. Panic took over. In a desperate bid to escape, he raised his other arm and struck backward with his elbow. Just 1 second later, Chu then lost his balance, and the two of them tumbled down the stairs. Beneath Lu Nguyen's head, dark red blood slowly spread across the floor. Her pupils contracted. A few deeply buried memories began to resurface. A rooftop packed with people. The sharp clang of a dagger hitting the ground. Kwang and Fong screaming wildly. A daughter taken hostage. And Ko Nan falling from a great height. She remembered everything. In that moment, it was as if she had time traveled back to the night 7 months ago. To the moment behind the piano. Back into the body of Lu Nguyen. Witnessing with her own eyes her husband and daughter fall from above. The horrifying images that once drove her mad flashed through her mind. She felt as if someone was ripping her head apart. The pain then spread from her abdomen. Blood began pouring out beneath her. Chu then lay motionless on the ground, blood oozing from his head and staining the floor red. When their eyes met in midair, they both saw death in each other's gaze. One was a beautiful dream completely shattered. The other, a nightmare that had finally come true. They stared at each other. A low, anguished scream seemed to rise from their throats. Chu Than's voice gradually faded, and the light in his eyes dimmed, until the final glimmer went out. His body became completely still. The blood beneath him slowly dried and hardened. No one could tell whose blood it was. His or Lu Nguyen's. From start to end, he remained in that same position, head tilted back, unmoving. That night, a housemaid came with a basket of vegetables. As soon as she opened the door and saw the horrific scene, she collapsed on the spot in fear. She immediately called the gardener. Trembling, the gardener stepped closer, facing Lu Nguyen's empty, lifeless eyes. He forced himself to reach out and check her breathing. Thank goodness, she was still alive. Then he reached toward Chu Than. At that moment, his whole body froze. He let out a scream and ran out of the room. Someone's dead. Mr. Chu is dead. Side story of Ko Tu-han. The loud strike of the judge's gavel echoed through the courtroom, pulling Ko Tu-han from her daze. She slowly opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was the chief judge and the other magistrates seated solemnly at the bench. Her face showed clear confusion and shock. Her second glance fell on the defendant's seat. Ko Nan sat there, calm and resolute. Her entire body froze. She couldn't help but cry out, "Dad!" That call shattered the solemn atmosphere in the courtroom. The chief judge knocked the gavel again. The trial is now in session. Everyone, maintain order. This case will be presided over by me. We will proceed publicly and fairly, in accordance with legal procedures. That familiar voice echoed once more, pulling Ko Tu-han back to memories of last year. For a brief moment, she couldn't tell whether it was the present or the past. Her eyes never left Ko Nan for even a second, her heart pounding fiercely. Ko Nan kept his head down until the judge asked him to confirm his identity. He stood and spoke. I am the defendant in this case. Ko Nan. I will give a truthful account and fully cooperate. Every word hit Ko Tu-han like thunder in a clear sky. She couldn't help but pinch herself hard. The pain confirmed it was not a dream. She had been reborn, returned to the moment of the trial after the car accident 5 years ago. That truth left her utterly stunned. But after the shock came a powerful surge of emotion. Memories of the dark and hopeless days of her previous life rushed back into her mind. Her little face lit up with an excitement mixed with intense joy. Returning to this point in time meant she had a chance to start over. A chance to save her father. At that thought, Ko Tu-han clenched her fists tightly, digging deep into all the memories of her past life. But back then, she had only been 3 years old, with just vague memories of the trial. One thing she remembered clearly. Her testimony in the previous life played an extremely important role. It was her own words that had shattered all the evidence prepared by the defense, leading to Ko Nan's conviction and imprisonment. Now given a second chance, she would never again allow the only person who had truly treated her well to suffer such a tragedy. This time, let the Liu family and Chu Than fall into hell. The trial was entering the stage of arguments. No one paid attention to the 3-year-old child sitting on the witness stand. But on that small face slowly appeared a cold smile, completely unfitting for a child her age. Your Honor, the plaintiff would like to present key evidence and testimony. The trial had reached its climax, with both sides locked in fierce contention. The plaintiff's lawyer suddenly made a request. The judge approved it. From the audience seats, Lu Nuyen signaled to Ko Tu-han, instructing her to perform well. In her previous life, Ko Tu-han had responded with a confident smile. But this time, she didn't even bother to glance at her. Under the gaze of the entire courtroom, she stood up and picked up the microphone. On the day of the car accident, I was sitting in the car waiting for my dad. I saw a man drive into Chu Than and then jump into the river. My dad brought him to the hospital out of kindness, but he was falsely accused. That childish voice uttering such words instantly stirred up the entire courtroom. Throughout her testimony, Ko Tu-han's eyes were locked onto mine. Seeing me, Ko Nan look up in shock. She immediately flashed a sweet smile. Her words directly turned the tide of the trial. Sensing that she was about to lose, Lu Nuyen suddenly stood up, her expression darkening, as she stared at the daughter who had not followed her orders. Tu-han, why are you lying and deceiving everyone? Facing the woman who had abandoned both her husband and daughter, Ko Tu-han showed no fear. She turned toward the judge. Uncle, I'm telling the truth. My dad really didn't hit anyone. It was my mom. She liked Chu Than and told me to lie in court. But I don't want to lie to people. And I don't want to hurt my dad either. Those few sentences immediately exposed a tangled web of relationships, stirring up another wave of commotion in the courtroom. The judge pounded his gavel. Order. The audience must maintain proper conduct. Anyone disrupting the court will be removed. With the key testimony from the witness, the momentum of the trial shifted entirely in Ko Nan's favor. After 6 hours of evidence disputes, at 3 p.m., the long trial finally concluded. The judge gave an immediate ruling. There was insufficient evidence to prove the defendant, Ko Nan, caused the accident. He was declared innocent. As soon as the result was announced, Ko Tu-han nearly jumped for joy. She immediately broke free from the lawyer's arms, ran barefoot to the front, and hugged her father's leg tightly, her voice overflowing with happiness at retrieving something she once thought was lost. Dad, this time you don't have to go to prison anymore. You can stay with me now. She was immersed in absolute joy, completely unaware that Conan's body had suddenly stiffened. Then he crouched down, looking her in the eyes, his voice calmer than she expected. Didn't you like Chu then? Why are you standing up for me? Seeing her father's face no longer as gentle as before, Ko Tu-han's heart ached. She knew she had done so many wrong things in her past life, disappointing him deeply. But no matter how bewitched she had been by Chu then, no matter how many mistakes she had made, her father had never once scolded her, even at his most desperate. Even when he attempted suicide, he had never hurt her. After experiencing those hopeless days, she could now see things clearly. She decided that in this life, she would stay by her father's side and protect him herself. Ko Tu-han buried herself in Conan's arms, her voice full of remorse. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't understand before and made you sad, but I promise I'll never be like that again. From now on, I only love you. Conan's hands paused for a moment before finally picking her up. Father and daughter left the courtroom together, only to discover the Liu family had already withdrawn. He hailed a taxi, then set the little girl down and sent her home first. Ko Tu-han asked her father in confusion, "Why aren't you coming home with me?" Conan's face showed no emotion, and his voice was as calm as still water. Your mother believes I killed Chu then. If I don't go to jail, she'll definitely find other ways to make my life miserable. Just those two simple sentences immediately brought back memories of her previous life. How Lu Nuyen had once broken her father's leg with an iron rod. Her pupils contracted. Dad was right. If she couldn't put him in jail, she'd use other ways to torture him. Ko Tu-han didn't want the tragedy to repeat itself. She quickly tried to think of a solution. Suddenly, an idea lit up in her mind. She remembered someone who could suppress Lu Nuyen and immediately asked her father for his phone. After sending a few voice messages, she tightly grabbed Conan's hand and pulled him toward the car. Don't worry, Dad. I already told Grandpa. He said he'll come right away. Hearing that, Conan didn't say anything else. He bent down and got into the car. As the door closed, a faint smile curved on his lips. But no one noticed it. The Liu family's villa was eerily quiet. Ko Tu-han was going to wait outside for her grandfather to arrive before going in. But Conan said it was fine and pulled her inside. As soon as they opened the door, they were met with Lu Nuyen's fierce, animal-like glare. You still dare step foot into this house? She hurled the words straight at Conan. Angry, Ko Tu-han immediately stepped in front of her father. This is also Dad's house. Why shouldn't he be allowed to come back? Seeing her usually obedient daughter suddenly become defiant and even defend Conan, the fury inside Lu Nuyen exploded. She clapped mockingly and let out a cold, sharp laugh. Bravo. Like father. Like daughter. The moment you changed your statement in court, I knew you were ungrateful trash. I regret giving birth to you. And now, you dare take his side? You're nothing but a worthless brat. In her previous life, this woman abandoned her for Chu Than. Now, in this life, for the same man, she insulted her again. She was her biological mother. He was her husband. Yet in this woman's heart, that man mattered more than her own child and husband. The thought made Ko Tu-han so furious she could barely breathe. Her eyes filled with hatred. I'm worthless? So are you. Don't forget, you're the one who gave birth to me. Half of your blood runs in my veins. How disgusting. Hearing this, Ko Nan immediately reached out and covered her mouth. Tu Han, that's your mother. How can you talk to her like that? But the girl didn't care. She held on to her father's arm tightly and said with firm resolve, I don't have a mother like that. She mistreated her husband and daughter all for a terrible man. She's despicable. Chu then was Lu Nuyen's bottom line. Something she wouldn't let anyone touch. Before Tu Han could even finish her sentence, Lu Nuyen suddenly jumped up, grabbed the iron rod next to her, and charged at the father and daughter. A car horn blared outside the gate. Reflexively, Ko Nan pulled his daughter to the side. But Lu Nuyen had trained in martial arts. She moved fast. The iron rod still struck both of their legs. Ko Nan let out a muffled groan. Ko Tu Han, cradled in his arms, couldn't endure the pain and let out a heart-wrenching scream. The moment her cry rang out, the villa's door burst open. Old Master Lu rushed in with bodyguards. Seeing Lu Nuyen raising the iron rod to strike again, his voice trembled with fury. You beast! That's your own daughter. How could you lay a hand on her? The bodyguards hurried to seize the rod and restrained her. Trembling, the old man rushed forward and hugged his granddaughter. When he saw her tender, pale leg now swollen and bruised, his anger surged to the top of his head. Without a word, he slapped Lu Nuyen hard. Again and again. All these years. No matter how badly she behaved, he had only ever scolded her. He had never laid a hand on her. Lu Nuyen stared at him in disbelief. Dad, they clearly killed Chu Than. Why are you hitting me instead of seeing what's right and wrong? On the way here, the old man had already heard everything clearly. Now, hearing it straight from her mouth, he was so furious that he overturned the tea table. Them? All I know is they're your husband and your daughter. You locked your husband in jail and beat your daughter to this point. Lu Nuyen, you're a vicious woman, and now you dare pretend to be a righteous saint? You disgust me. Quote, she argued, I just want them to pay for what they did to Chu Than. Seeing she was still lost in her obsession, with only that man in her eyes, the old man was completely disappointed. He closed his eyes, his voice heavy. If you love him that much, then go back to the hospital and take care of him. Don't be my daughter anymore. And don't you dare lay a hand on Ko Nan or Ko Tu Han ever again. In the past, because the old man disapproved, Chu Than was never allowed to set foot in the Lu family home. Because of that, father and daughter had long harbored resentment toward each other. When he found out Lu Nuyen was pregnant, he intended to bring her back. But the two sides exploded into fierce arguments. Other than occasionally picking up his granddaughter, they hardly met in recent years. The resentment never faded, only deepened. Lu Nuyen, filled with anger and unwilling to accept defeat, sneered at Ko Nan, flung the bodyguard's hand away, and stormed out the door. Ko Nan didn't seem to care. He steadied himself on the table, stood up, and slightly bowed to the old man. Dad, I'm sorry. It's my fault for upsetting Nuyen again, making you worry because of all this. Seeing that his son-in-law remained so gentle and respectful, the old man let out a deep sigh and shook his head. I know you're a good man. This has nothing to do with you. She's the one who's gone mad. I feel sorry for you and your father. Come home with me, both of you. They both knew Lu Nuyen was only retreating temporarily. Who knew when she might return? And when she did, no one could protect them anymore. They looked at each other, said nothing, and silently nodded. Back home, the old man personally applied medicine to Tu Han's injuries. Then he called over more than 10 bodyguards, instructing them to guard the house day and night without leaving for a second. For over a month afterward, Lu Nuyen would occasionally come to cause trouble, but each time, the old man ordered the guards to drive her out. With tight security, Ko Nan and his daughter were able to live peacefully. without any incidents. The old man had already cherished Ko Tu-han greatly, and now that they lived together, and the child was clever, sweet-mouthed, and made him smile every day, their bond grew even deeper. Ko Non was also very thoughtful. Although his body hadn't fully recovered, he still tried his best to fulfill his duties. At long last, the old man finally experienced the kind of warm family life he had always dreamed of. Even though Mr. Liu doted on Tu-han deeply, because she still remembered her past life clearly, she didn't truly like him. She only acted politely because she had to rely on him for now. At home, Ko Non constantly reminded his daughter, and over time, she gradually let go of her arrogant and strange behavior that had been deeply ingrained in her subconscious. She began to transform into a well-behaved young girl. Because her father was now by her side, there were moments when Ko Tu-han felt as though her past life had been nothing more than a terrible nightmare. Yet despite her dad still cooking for her, lulling her to sleep, and taking her out just like before, she could sense something was different. He no longer seemed truly happy. Since their return, not once had she seen him smile. Eventually, she couldn't hold it in anymore and asked. Ko Non gently patted her head and replied with a heavy sigh. "I'm okay. I just miss your grandparents a little. It's been a long time since I saw them. I don't even know how their health is now." Hearing this, Tu-han immediately thought of the grandparents who had once loved and spoiled her dearly. In the past, influenced by Lu Nuyen and Chu Than, she always looked down on her paternal relatives. No matter how kind they were to her, she would purposely ignore them. But now it was different. In her eyes, there was only her father. Whoever he loved, she would love too. So the moment she saw him upset, she ran to find her grandfather to ask for permission to visit her paternal grandparents. After getting approval, father and daughter left the family estate under the protection of bodyguards. But instead of going directly to his parents' house, Ko Non arranged to meet them at a restaurant. The whole family enjoyed a joyful meal together, and afterward, he even rented out a playground just for them. They played until the evening, and as the sun began to set, old Master Liu, worried for his granddaughter's safety, personally came to pick them up. After saying goodbye, the co-grandparents left, and old Master Liu insisted on escorting them home. A convoy of a dozen vehicles headed straight toward an old apartment complex in the eastern part of the city. But before they even arrived at the gates, they saw thick smoke rising from the last house at the end of an alley. It was ablaze. Ko Non's face changed instantly. "That's my parents' house. Everything was fine when we left earlier. How could this happen? Who would do something like this?" Before he could react further, old Master Liu gently patted his father-in-law's back in reassurance. Thankfully, no one was home. Everyone's safe. And that's what matters. Ko Tu-han, clinging tightly to her father, suddenly recalled memories from her past life. Back then, after Ko Non was thrown into prison, Lu Nuyen still wasn't satisfied. In the end, her schemes drove his parents to such despair that they died from grief. Now that Ko Non had avoided that fate, Lu Nuyen would surely be even more furious. Knowing her crazy temperament, it was entirely possible that she had set this fire herself. With that thought, Tu-han's eyes scanned the area before suddenly leaning out the car window and shouting, "Mom!" Startled, Ko Non quickly pulled her back. "Your mom? That's impossible. Tu-han, you must be mistaken." The other adults thought the same. They assumed she was just being impulsive. But Tu-han was adamant. She pointed toward a small alley. "It's really Mom. I'm sure of it. Maybe she saw who started the fire." Everyone dismissed it as childish talk, except old Master Liu. Being a cautious and suspicious man, he couldn't ignore what she said. After all, This heartless daughter of his had hurt even her own child before. If she hated Conan but couldn't get to him, perhaps she had targeted his aging parents instead. His face darkened at the thought. He opened the car door himself and spoke in a low voice. Since Tu Han saw her, let's go check. See how bad the fire is and figure out what needs to be done. No one dared to object. They all got out of the cars and pushed through the crowd fleeing the fire, heading into the residential area. Sure enough, Lu Nuyen was there. She stood in front of the roaring flames, a twisted smile on her face. Several men flattered her nearby. Miss Lu, I've already taken care of the fire department. No one will show up for at least half an hour. This fire will rage as much as you want. The alcohol we brought has all been cleaned up too. Even if the FBI shows up, they'll never trace this back to you. They bragged proudly, not realizing a large group of people had arrived behind them, led by none other than Old Master Lu. He had heard every word. His expression turned ice cold. Without hesitation, he raised his cane. At his signal, over a dozen bodyguards surged forward and pinned the group to the ground in an instant. Slowly, the old man walked up and stood before the woman still struggling on the ground. Without a word, he raised his cane and brought it crashing down on her leg. Lu Nuyen let out a painful scream. As she looked up to curse the person who hit her, her whole body froze when she saw that stern face. Her voice trembled with fear. Dad? Why are you here? Old Master Lu turned to see Conan tightly holding his daughter back, standing between her and his in-laws, keeping them about 10 meters away. Only then did he coldly turn back to Lu Nuyen. I came to see how someone who's lost all sense of humanity could bring herself to commit arson and attempted murder. Lu Nuyen had no idea the couple had gone out. Nor did she understand how her father found out. She instinctively assumed that Conan had tattled again. You again? It's you. You just had to run your mouth, didn't you? You ruined me and Chu Than. So what if I burned your parents' house? Consider it payback. Her words poured oil onto the fire. Old Master Lu's face turned red with fury, his entire body trembling. He raised his hand and slapped her hard. You've completely lost your mind. The court already ruled that Conan was innocent. Yet you continue to slander him? And now you're setting fires? Lu Nuyen, are you even human anymore? Why did I ever raise a daughter who can't tell right from wrong? The slap left her dazed, but she still screamed with rage. This time, she didn't hold anything back. Her eyes bloodshot, she shouted back at her father with no regard for dignity or respect. All the resentment she had built up over the years exploded in a furious rant that made her lose all self-control. Old Master Lu stared at her in disbelief. His anger gradually turned into shock, then deep sorrow, and finally complete disappointment. For more than 20 years, he had been strict with Lu Nuyen because he believed in her. He had hoped she could carry the future of the Lu family. Hoped she'd grow into someone strong, even stronger than a man. She was his only daughter, the child he had poured all his hopes into. Yet now, for the sake of a man, she had lost all reason, not only doing wicked, lawless things, but even hurting her husband and daughter. Seeing that she remained defiant and stubborn, daring to argue back, Old Master Lu felt all his efforts had been in vain. He looked up to the sky and let out a long sigh. His hand holding the cane trembled, and his legs wobbled, nearly giving out. Several people rushed to help him, but he waved them off and left behind just one sentence. A rotten tree can't be carved into anything. Then he turned and led everyone away. On the way home, the car was so silent it felt suffocating. Only the sound of heavy breathing could be heard. When they arrived at the villa, Old Master Lu personally escorted Conan's parents to their guest rooms. Then he called Conan and Tu-han into the study and ordered his assistant to summon a lawyer. Both father and daughter noticed his mood was still unsettled, so they kept their heads down, not daring to speak. Old Master Lu looked at his son-in-law for a long moment, then turned his gaze to his granddaughter. Finally, he made up his mind and turned to the lawyer. Today, I've asked you all here to change my will. He paused for a second, then said firmly, after I die, 80% of all Lu family assets, company shares, real estate, investment funds, will go to Ko Tu-han. The remaining 20% will be given to Ko Nan. Both father and daughter lifted their heads at the same time. Shocked, Tu-han was still just a child. She hesitated, then quietly asked, "What about Mom?" Lu Nuyen no longer deserves to be a descendant of the Lu family. From now on, consider her as someone who never existed. Still overwhelmed, the two returned to their room. The moment the door closed, Tu-han turned to her father and asked again, needing confirmation, "Dad, does that mean I don't have to call her Mom anymore?" Ko Nan gently nodded, a strange sense of relief in his heart. The girl's eyes lit up, her voice noticeably brighter. If Mom finds out about this, she's going to be furious. Ko Nan was slightly taken aback by her reaction but kept a calm tone. She'll probably lose her mind. Tu-han smirked. Let's not go out these next few days. I don't want to run into her. Knowing her grandfather had completely cut ties with Lu Nuyen, Tu-han no longer cared about her mother at all. Her tone was filled with smug satisfaction. We have Grandpa now. What's there to be afraid of? She's been kicked out of the family. Ko Nan frowned slightly and thought for a moment. She never liked the two of us to begin with. Now, she probably hates us even more. Chu Then is still in the hospital. No one knows if he'll ever wake up. If he does, there's no telling what they'll try next. We still need to be cautious. As soon as she heard Chu Than's name, Tu-han's expression turned strange. These past few days, she had been so focused on tearing her mother away from her grandfather that she had nearly forgotten all about that vile man. She remembered clearly, in its previous life, on the exact day that Ko Nan committed suicide, Chu then suddenly woke up. There was no way such a coincidence could be real. It suspected that the man had planned it all, that he had orchestrated everything, including the death of its father. Ko Tu-han clenched its teeth in hatred, eyes filled with fury and resentment. That man was truly something else. Not only had he lured Lu Nuyen into loving him so much she'd die for him, but he even made grandfather forgive him. As the saying goes, if you pull out weeds, pull them out by the roots. Quote, now he was just a vegetable. This was the perfect moment to strike. With that thought, Ko Tu-han's eyes shifted slightly. It tugged on Ko Nan's sleeve and acted cute. Daddy, my tooth really hurts. Can you take me to the dentist tomorrow? Ko Nan didn't suspect a thing and immediately agreed. After the checkup, while Ko Nan was attentively listening to the doctor explain the results, Ko Tu-han quietly slipped out of the room and asked someone to take it to the top floor via elevator. In its past life, it had followed its mother here countless times. The route was familiar. It took no effort at all to sneak into Chu Than's hospital room. They hadn't seen each other in a long time. Chu Than still lay there, as peaceful as a sleeping prince. But when it saw that delicate, almost gentle face, Ko Tu-han felt no closeness, only disgust. It dragged a chair over, climbed up, and stared at him for a long while. Then it suddenly reached out and yanked off the ventilator, tossing it aside. Next, it grabbed the messy strands of hair on the pillow, pulling them out, strand by strand, handful by handful. Even after tearing out hundreds of hairs, it still wasn't satisfied. Taking out a lighter it had secretly brought from home, it set fire to the clump of hair and threw it onto the bed. The fire spread fast. In no time, Chu Than's entire head of hair was ablaze. The flames licked the bedsheets and began burning the clothes on his body. His face was scorched black and twisted beyond recognition. Before the horrifying scene, Ko Tu-han didn't panic. Instead, it burst into a peal of bright, clear laughter. That eerie sound echoed throughout the room, blending with the flatline tone of the life monitor. Soon, a nurse noticed. Moments later, screams rang out through the entire floor. The patient in VIP room 3 had died. Lu Nuyen had just stepped out of the elevator when she heard the news. It felt as if all the blood in her body froze. She went mad, racing toward the hospital room like a tornado. Before she even reached the doorway, the stench of burned hair assaulted her nose. At that very moment, the door opened from the inside. Ko Tu-han was trying to sneak out, but instead bumped straight into Lu Nuyen, sending her sprawling to the ground. As she looked up, what met her eyes was a horribly disfigured face, burnt and unrecognizable. Lying on the bed, the monitor beside him showed no sign of life. Lu Nuyen felt like a bomb had exploded in her brain. Her eyes went wide, her forehead drenched in sweat, her breath rapid and broken. Ko Tu-han quickly scrambled to its feet, intending to run again, but Lu Nuyen's hand shot out, grabbing its neck. The child struggled desperately, its face turning from pale to red to a terrifying purple. Just as it was about to suffocate, Ko Nan appeared at the far end of the hallway with hospital security. He saw his daughter being strangled by Lu Nuyen, and a chill shot down his spine. Without even thinking, he rushed forward and tore Ko Tu-han from her grip. Lu Nuyen's trembling hands let go, and Ko Tu-han collapsed into her father's arms, coughing violently, her small face purple, streaked with tears and snot. Ko Nan clutched her tightly, the faint breathing and broken sobs still ringing in his ears. Security quickly restrained Lu Nuyen. She was still screaming, her eyes bloodshot, her hair disheveled like a true madwoman. When the police arrived, she was still screaming that she had been framed, that Chu Then was the only man she ever loved. It was all because of that little brat, because Ko Nan had forced her into a corner. Her cries and laughter echoed through the hallway until she was forcibly taken away and her screams gradually faded. The incident of Chu Than's death was ultimately handled in silence. No one publicly revealed who the perpetrator was. The hospital's inspection revealed that the monitoring room had lost signal for nearly 10 minutes. And coincidentally, the surveillance footage from VIP room number 3 was missing at that time. In the end, the authorities concluded it was an electrical short circuit that caused a fire. Lu Nuyen completely broke down. After hearing that Chu Then had died, she went mad, not recognizing anyone, refusing to listen to anyone, and was eventually admitted to a mental hospital. As for Ko Tu-han, after that day, no one questioned or blamed her. But Ko Nan knew his daughter's eyes had changed. They no longer held the innocence of the past in them, now were flames, coldness, and a deeply hidden wariness. One midnight, he was startled awake and saw Tu-han sitting by the window, staring out into the dark sky beyond the villa's yard. She quietly muttered, as if speaking to herself, "If I didn't have you, Dad, I think I would have gone insane too." Quote, hearing that, Ko Nan felt his heart ache. He could only hug his daughter tightly, unable to say a word. 2 years later, Ko Tu-han stood in silence before the gravestone engraved with her mother's name. After being institutionalized, Lu Nuyen was still alive, but her mental state continued to deteriorate. One rainy night, she secretly escaped from the hospital. She stood on the city's tallest overpass, dressed in white like a flower, laughing madly. By the time the police arrived, she had already jumped. Her funeral was held quietly. No one attended except for Ko Tu-han and Ko Nan. Ko Tu-han did not cry. She simply placed a white delphinium on the grave and said, "I forgive you, Mom. Not because you deserve it, but because if I don't forgive, I'll be forever trapped in the past." Behind her, Ko Nan said nothing. He just silently draped his coat over her shoulders. Years later, Ko Tu-han had grown up. She was smart, cold, and sharp. She inherited the entire Liu family fortune and single-handedly rebuilt a company that was on the verge of collapse, because she had faced death and been given a second chance at life. She knew what was truly worth loving, and what she needed to learn to let go. One day, she held her father's hand while walking along the stone path in front of the villa. She looked up and softly asked, "Dad, if one day I love the wrong person again, will you pull me back?" Ko Nan paused for a moment, then gently stroked her head and replied, "As long as you still look back, I'll always be there waiting for you to come home." Quote, Ko Tu-han smiled, a gentle smile, like a passing breeze. This time, she would live a life with no regrets. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you can give me a like and subscribe to my channel to support its growth. See you all in the next video.